Hello, this is Michael Olson, Director of Development for StandUp for Kids Orange County and the host of ListenUp, the StandUp for Kids podcast. On today's episode, we'll be speaking with Andrew Castillo, Manager of Family Programs at Illumination Foundation. We're going to talk to him today about his work in Orange County, helping families find a home. Hi, Andrew. How are you today?
I'm doing well, Michael. Thank you for asking. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. Thanks for being here. So Andrew, to get us started, can you just briefly tell us what it is that you do for work at the Illumination Foundation?
Yeah, definitely. So like you said, I'm the manager of family programs for Illumination Foundation. And Illumination Foundation is a very large homeless service provider. And what I do is manage our family programs. So I oversee both our housing programs, and in our housing programs, we help families get into their own homes by covering the first month's rent, security deposit, and several months of rent after that to help them stabilize. We also have family shelters throughout North Orange County. So at these family shelters, we are taking in families who are literally homeless. We take them off the streets and give them a safe place to be. And during that time, our goal is to help them also get connected to housing. And I also oversee our family access point. So a family access point is a location where a family can go to, a family who is seeking services. And what our staff does at this access point is help them get connected to homeless services throughout Orange County. So it may not be one of our programs, but it would be another program throughout Orange County.
So it's kind of, there's like three funnels, you could say.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So definitely juggling a lot of different projects at one time, So if you like, I can expand on either, which one would you like me to expand on first?
Yeah. I guess actually, I think we're going to go there, but I want to kind of just back off for a second and ask you a little bit about yourself, and how did you end up at Illumination Foundation, and maybe go in the Wayback Machine to how'd you get into human services or this genre of work in the first place?
I've been working in homeless services since 2014, and I started in homeless services working at Friendship Shelter located in Laguna Beach. And it's something that I didn't really imagine myself getting into, but now it's definitely a field that I cannot imagine working in a different field. So I graduated college. I went up to Sonoma State in Northern California, and I got a degree in sociology. And I was really interested in learning about just society in general, why is society structured the way society is structured. And I was also very interested in kind of understanding in a deeper sense on why are there communities who have less resources than other communities, and just really interested in learning about populations who are disenfranchised in our communities. And I knew I wanted to make a difference in the world, and I knew I wanted to use my education for the better, right? And I grew up in Santa Ana here in Orange County. Both my parents working middle class, and it was just one of those things like I just knew I wanted to give back to other people in a very who grew up kind of a similar way that I did. So after college, I was just looking for a job and didn't really know what I wanted to do, but then I ended up finding this position at Friendship Shelter as a shelter staff. And I worked at this shelter. So it was a 32-bed transitional housing program. And this 32-bed transitional housing program, we were helping literally homeless individuals who suffered from mental health issues, substance abuse disorders, personality disorders, physical limitations as well. So we're helping these 32 individuals with their challenges, providing case management. And a lot of what I did was conflict resolution, and also making sure the clients there were doing their chores and participating in the program as well. So from there, I ended up working for South County Outreach. And after that, I worked for the Family Solutions Collaborative. So I've held a few different positions, and I was very much aware of Illumination Foundation and the work they did. And I always had a lot of respect for the work that they did. And everybody I knew from Illumination Foundation, they just had such a huge heart and such a huge passion for what they do. And they really had a let's do whatever it takes mentality and attitude, and let's meet our homeless neighbors where they're at, and let's get them into their own homes. And we're going to work with them until they're stable to maintain their own homes. So I was very passionate about Illumination Foundation, even before I joined this team. And I remember talking to one of my old coworkers and telling them, like, I think I want my next job to be for Illumination Foundation. So when this opportunity came up, I hopped on it, I applied, and just so grateful I was able to get this opportunity. And
Yeah. So you basically have been in this field all the way from the start, from the time you graduated college.
Yeah.
And is this where are you going to spend the rest of your life in this realm?
I'm a young person, and I ask myself that a lot. I'm actually, I'm engaged, and I'm getting married next year. I'm super excited to start that new chapter of my life. And I think to myself, what do I want to do in my future, right? I'm about to be 30. And to answer your question, I really can't imagine working for a different population at this point. And I think about it, and I truly believe like this is a social issue that we can answer, right? We can come up with solutions as a community and tackle, right? And this is an issue that's generational, and it's an issue that not just affects our communities, but more importantly affects the people who actually are experiencing homelessness, right? So I think about a lot of these different causes, and I think they're equally as important, right? But I think right now, I feel like this is definitely my passion, and trying to make a difference in somebody's life. I think to me, without that housing piece, it is so hard to focus on other issues, right? So it's so difficult for somebody, especially families, right, to be focused on education and nutrition for their children, when they're sleeping in their cars. So if we can address that housing piece, we can start tackling some of these other things going on within the family.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you had that kind of macro view in school, and thinking about it from a social change lens, and then finding a role kind of in the
weeds of things.
Yeah, in the direct. Yeah, I was trying to figure out the word, the micro or the like boots on the ground role that could go tackle some of those issues. And I like that you said that it's a fixable issue, because I think a lot of people, some people will just kind of throw their hands in the air and say, yeah, homelessness, it's always going to be here. It's this big problem, and it's unmanageable, and I don't know how you can possibly get your arms around it. But I mean,
go ahead. No, definitely, and I think it not only is it an issue that we can tackle, but I think it's something that we need to do is create a system or a safety net for when people do become homeless as well, right? So long-term goals, I think, for a lot of people in this field is let us house everybody who is experiencing homelessness now, right? And then from there, let's create a system where when somebody does lose their home, we can try to get them back into housing as quickly as possible, right? Instead of letting people, become chronically homeless because there's no available services.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And there's prevention side, and then there's kind of just that acute homelessness side. And if the less amount of time that you let somebody sit in that situation, the easier it is to rehabilitate and move them forward and get them into a better spot. The longer that somebody is homeless, then they're vulnerable for a longer period of time, and the opportunity for bad things to happen, it just greatly increases. So
100% agree.
So StandUp for Kids is a youth homelessness organization. So our mission is to end the cycle of youth homelessness. So we work with 12 to 24-year-olds in both a preventative way within the school system, kind of giving students tools to get a better education and decrease the odds of them becoming homeless. And then at the acute stage, when youth are homeless, helping them find that housing as soon as possible and getting them off the streets. And we do have youth or TAY, or the 18 to 24 age range that do have children sometimes. So we do work with families in some environments, but for the most part, it's single individuals. I don't know. A high percentage is single individuals. So a question for you would be, in the family's realm, is there what could you compare and contrast, like helping an individual versus helping a family?
So I think there's a few different things that I want to say. So at our family shelters, I would say, I wish I had the number for you. I probably should have done that. But, we do see a percentage of our households in that young adults category. So we see individual or families come in where the head of household is under the age of 24. And at any given time, I would say we have at least 1 of 3 families out of the 20 families we're serving at a time at our family shelters who meets that criteria. So I think it definitely presents their own challenges, and I would say, I don't even want to say just our TAY population feels this way, but I would imagine there's an additional feeling of feeling scared and just feeling so overwhelmed of not knowing what is that next step. You don't know where are you going to be, in the next few weeks. So a lot of the families we serve, they come to us and there's a lot of anxiety, a lot of uncertainty. But a lot of families that we have worked with, this is not the first time that they have experienced homelessness. They've been homeless several times prior to reaching us, right? They've experienced several episodes of homelessness, and with the TAY population, this is probably their first time experiencing something like this, right? And we see a lot of people, they end up homeless for a couple different reasons in that population. I think we see unhealthy homes that they exited from, or they were asked to leave for whatever reason, or their family was just already unstable prior to them becoming homeless. So now they're homeless with their child. And, we're talking about like a 21-year-old who is a kid, and they have a kid that they also have to take care of. And they have like the weight on their shoulders to make it. And I think I have this respect for all our clients and young adults facing the situation, being able to wake up every day and take on whatever challenges lies before them. So I think just kind of focusing on that TAY population, I think there's just that extra feeling of uncertainty and not knowing. And I also, was talking to this client of ours the other day, and she was a few years younger than me, and we started talking about music and all these different things, and then she starts talking about her friends, and it kind of like threw me back for a second, because a lot of the families that we work with, they don't have a strong social life. They don't have a lot of friends that they can turn to vent to and look to for support. So then this girl, she starts talking to me about her friends. And then I kind of just took a moment, it kind of like threw me back for a second. And I'm like, just a reminder that this girl is literally just like me. We have our whole social circle, and I start asking her about her friends and things like that. And her friends had no idea that she's in this situation, that she's living at a homeless shelter, and I just thought that was so interesting. But then she still finds support from her friends, right? Still like going to go see her friends on the weekends, to go have like coffee or something and have these play dates with her friends. And they don't even know that she is in this homeless situation, right? So this girl was at the time about 23 years old. So it's just kind of interesting. She's at this point in her life where she's really becoming her own person and facing all these challenges. So I just found that to be so, just inspirational, I guess. She's like, what, this is how I'm going to take care of myself emotionally and mentally in order for me to do everything else I need to do. And she's actually housed in one of our housing programs right now with two of her children.
Wow. So that kind of brings me into my next question. I guess maybe you could say boundaries or personal connection. So when you meet, you work with all these families and people, and a lot of them have had trauma and problems and things that have happened to them that have put them in this situation. And you're helping them. But does it ever build up on you, all the stuff that you see and all the negative pieces and parts, and how do you deal with that?
I think there's times it definitely gets to me where at the end of the day, I go home and then I end up sitting on my couch and then I just sit there trying to decompress. And then before I realize, I just sat there on the couch for like 20 minutes, like not even with the TV on, and just kind of in my own thoughts. So I think that's like just one way that I just like decompress, and definitely I always try to work out and get my mind off it, and I find that to be like my meditation. But there's definitely a lot of times where I cannot stop thinking about a situation that I encountered, and I'm just constantly thinking and trying to problem solve in my mind about, okay, how are we going to address this situation? And get this family to where they need to be next, right? How are we going to get them connected? What are the resources that we can get them connected to? Who can I call to help this family at this moment, right? And this can be a wide range of things. One, it can be, okay, where can we get this family who is literally homeless in their car, right? I'll be thinking about that. Or then I'll be thinking about a family who is having a mental health crisis, either the head of household or one of their children. So there's just so many different things that I definitely think about all the time. Or sometimes some families are housed and they literally don't have any furniture, and we were only able to provide like beds, but they still don't even have a dining table or a couch. So then just like thinking about that, it's like, how we got them a roof over the head, but it's not a home yet. So how do we make this place a home? So boundaries, I think it's very difficult for anybody in this field to not take it home with them, not think about it. We see people in a very low place in their life, and it's hard to separate yourself from that and not think about it, because we're all here to help people, and you can't just like clock out and not take it home with you and not think about it. And I think as far as boundaries, and to talk about boundaries, I think everybody here, I always hear people say, I just want to give them a hug. I just want to hug them, and yeah. And then you always hear somebody like, oh, I want to go give my kids toys to this person. It's like, well, hold on, before we do that, let's see what we can do. Let's call our local church partners, or let's see if we have toys here in our closet to give to this child for their birthday, right? So everybody definitely wants to give it their all.
Does it feel to you, so you run into all these situations, these very acute situations that are time sensitive, and they're living on the street right now. Do you feel like, from a resource perspective, that you have the resources to help these people in that period of time? Or does it feel like, I don't quite have what I need? Or what? Kind of give me your perspective on that.
I definitely do not feel like we as a community have what we need to address this issue at this time. And I think there seems to be more and more opportunities for families and individuals to get connected to some resources, but we're not there yet. It's still a waiting game for some individuals and some families, especially the chronic homeless population at times. And there's so many different facets that need to be addressed in order for families to be successful long term. So I think for an example, I don't think at this moment there's enough shelter beds for families. There's not enough shelter beds for individuals as well. But we're definitely trying to streamline that process and getting families connected to shelter by trying to exit families who are in shelter as quickly as possible, so we can get them into their own home and then get another family in that shelter spot. But in order to do that, we need to have an appropriate housing opportunity for that family in our shelter. So some families, very, very high functioning families who fell on hard times and found themselves in a situation. This is the first time they've ever been homeless in their entire life. They never imagined themselves to be in a situation like this, but they fell on hard times. Now they're homeless. We saw them. We were able to get them in our shelter. So we were able to get them housed quickly. They were able to get a job quickly, and they were able to get back on their feet quickly, right? By quickly, I'm saying like 60 days, 30 to 60 days, right?
That's fast.
Quickly,
Mm-hmm.
but then we have other households who have a lot of barriers. They have a disability. So they have these additional challenges where it may not be as easy for us to place them in housing because they don't have the income to be initially accepted, or they're not going to have the ability to increase their income because they're on a fixed income on SSI or something like that. So for these households, we're trying to get them connected to a project-based voucher, a housing choice voucher, affordable housing units. We're trying to house them somewhere where it's going to be sustainable for that household, right? We're not going to try to set them up potentially for failure, if we put them in a fair market unit here in Orange County where a 1-bedroom is $1,700, a 2-bedroom is over $2,200. So some households can't afford that. So when we're trying to address their specific family, it may take us 90 days. It may take us longer than 90 days. So the longer they're in our program, that means the longer another family is going to have to wait to get into our shelter. So I definitely think resources are lacking.
So do you have a flow? You have families that need shelter support. You have families that are in the shelter. Then you have families that are in transitional housing. Is that how you'd say it?
Well, they would be in their own housing, and then we're providing that support.
Yeah. Okay, gotcha. So I guess one of my thoughts was the idea of sustainability with this system. So do you have the tools and the resources and is sustainability with the OC housing market and with the landscape that we have, like how sustainable can we be?
I will go back to say it's going to depend on some of the families that we're working with at times. Some families, given certain tools, are going to be highly successful, and they're going to be able to make it in this market. And other families with different barriers, it definitely would be a lot more difficult to maintain rent that, like I said, is $1,700 for a 1-bedroom. So if we are not investing in vouchers, if we're not investing in project-based programs as well, we're going to continue to see some people remain homeless. So there definitely needs to be continued investment in those types of housing opportunities. So I know more recently there has been this influx in emergency housing vouchers. So programs like that really are designed to address the barriers of those who have the most vulnerabilities and the highest barriers. So if we can continue to assist individuals facing those types of barriers, then I think we can ensure long-term stability.
Do you guys do anything like, I don't know how to say this, creative or out of the box, or like, are there other pathways that you take? Like one that comes, okay, I'll let you go.
Yeah, I definitely would say this. Elimination Foundation's mission is to disrupt the cycle of homelessness. So one way we do this is not just provide services to the adults and the head of households in our programs, but we also have our children's team. So our children's team, we complete assessments for the children in our housing programs or in our shelter programs, and then we also follow them into our housing programs as well. So we complete these different assessments that are going to look at where they're at in their development, and really target the children who are really falling behind in their development and try to get them connected to additional resources so we can ensure they're going to be able to catch up in their development. And then also we're really trying to make sure that they're connected to what's the word? Just healthcare in general, to see their pediatric care. Yeah. So, sometimes we see children who haven't who are behind in their immunizations, and who are just behind in school. So our goal is to really help them get caught up in those things as well. So we really want to make sure that just longer term, that when these children grow up, they're not going to end up in the same situation that they were in as a child, right? So I think that's something very unique that we do here, is have this children's program and really just follow up with the whole family rather than just following up with the parents. So we have our case managers, and we also have our children navigators.
Do you guys do anything like relocation, like, or family reunification? If they came from Texas and they have family in Texas, then you help them get back there, or area, or send them to a county or a place that is not as expensive, or things like that?
Yeah, so we are part of the Family Solutions Collaborative, and then we also work with a lot of different churches in the area. So we ourselves wouldn't necessarily provide that funding, but what we will do is definitely reach out to our community partners in order for this family to get to where they need to be. So definitely being in this field, everybody knows each other. And if one person is not able to assist a family, we're going to reach out to our partners to ensure that they get that support.
Yeah, and you've worked for four different agencies in the Orange County area. Has that been beneficial to you to kind of know people in different areas, and is that and I know we're, StandUp for Kids is collaborative. We've been in meetings with you guys before, and lots of other organizations, but maybe you can speak to just collaboration within Orange County, and like, maybe is there an example of a collaborative situation that you could share?
Yeah, well, to answer your first question, I definitely think working for several different agencies in the last 8 years has been very beneficial with getting to know a lot of different people, but I've worked in different capacities. So that's also taught me a lot as well. And I think in terms of collaborating, I think right now there's definitely a huge effort in terms of just getting everybody to work together, to being on the same page, and to be able to get people to where they need to be, right? So we have the coordinated entry system, right? So when a family comes to us and they don't have a place to be, and it happens sometimes where we don't have a bed available at our shelter. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to assess this family's needs. We're going to ask them some questions regarding their background, get some information on where they currently located, and then from there, we're going to reach out to the family coordinated entry system and enter them into the countywide shelter reservation system, so they can be referred to another shelter who would have openings at that time. So that's one way we definitely collaborate all together as a community, instead of just locking our shelter doors and saying, oh, it's going to be my decision who gets into this shelter, right? It's like, no, when I have a shelter opportunity, it's going to be open to the community, and then we're going to see who are those families most at need, and they can be referred first to our shelter opportunities. And the same goes for housing as well, right? So sometimes our housing programs, unfortunately, we're not able to accept new referrals at that moment, but we're going to refer them back to the community, back to the coordinated entry system, get referred to another organization who has access to housing opportunities at that time. So that's always happening. And definitely also leaning on our church partners has been super beneficial in the last few months. We lean on our church partners to provide furniture assistance to some of our households who, like I was saying, don't have furniture, and due to limitations of our programs, we're not able to fully furnish someone's unit. So they've been able to step in and provide that furniture.
Yeah. Yeah. I just want to speak to the coordinated entry system a little bit. And we are a part of it as well. And there's different lanes to it. There's a families lane, there's a veterans lane, there's an individuals lane, and there's actually a TAY lane that started about a year ago. And so we utilize the coordinated entry system in both the individual and the TAY lane. So I'm familiar with that. The audience might not be, though. Would you want to take a crack at what is the coordinated entry system, just kind of from a macro level?
Yeah, I'll try my best. So essentially, I guess I would like people to picture this, try to paint this picture for them. If this was, let's say 10 years ago, and you were someone who was experiencing homelessness, you would call an agency, right? You would get this phone number, you would call an agency, and this agency's going to answer, and they're going to tell you one of like three things, right? They're going to say, sweet, come on in, we're going to help you. Or they're going to say, you don't qualify. Or they're going to say, you qualify, but we don't have the space, right? So if it's the latter, they're going to say, oh, well, here's a list of phone numbers, you should go call them, right? And then they're going to get this list, they're going to call the next agency that's on this list, and that agency is going to say the same exact thing, give them the same exact list in their own format, and they're going to say, okay, you qualify or you don't, or we don't have space. So now this family or this individual is like, okay, I called 10 different places and I'm still homeless. What am I going to do, right? And you start definitely feeling that desperation, the helplessness, and you feel abandoned by your community, that nobody wants to help you, right? And you spent all this time trying to get connected to services that you know absolutely nothing about, because why would you know about all these homeless resources, right? If you just became homeless, no one's going to know, right? And no one's going to know all the qualifications for each program, right? Even as a service provider, I have to, refresh my knowledge in all these different organizations and their qualifications as well, right? So there's that. So now, fast forward to present day, and somebody is experiencing homelessness, they can get connected to a access point, right? So what this access point should be doing is assessing this household situation, and then kind of determining, okay, well, what are their needs and what are their barriers? How long have they been homeless? Do they have a disability? And they can really identify what does that situation look like. And from there, they can do two things. One, they can refer them to programs who may not necessarily participate in the coordinated entry system. And they could also refer them to the coordinated entry system. So the coordinated entry system is essentially a prioritization type list where different households are referred to, and then from there, when there is an available opportunity, those households who have been experiencing homelessness the longest and who have the highest level of need will be referred to the opportunities that they actually qualify for. So they're not going to be necessarily referred to organizations that they're not going to qualify for. So Yeah, I think that's like the
Yeah.
best way I can explain it.
Yeah, there's the needs and then there's the availability. And so it's
Yeah,
prioritizing the need and aligning that with the availability and hopefully finding matches to get these
yeah,
people housed and moved off out
yeah,
of homelessness.
yeah. I definitely think, it's definitely about getting to know the people who are actually experiencing homelessness, right? So if you can get to know, okay, what are they facing? You can refer them to to organizations that are going to be able to assist them, right? Because like if I had a 27-year-old, for example, I might not call stand up for kids, right? But then if somebody else gave them their number, now this 27-year-old calls you guys, and you're going to still provide as much resources as you can as well, right?
Right.
But you may not provide the same level of services as another organization might be able to provide. So,
Sure.
yeah.
So I know you can't talk about families specifically, but is there a family homelessness story that has resonated with you? Maybe give you hope or touched you in some way that you can share?
Um, I think one family that comes to mind is um, a couple and their small child. They had a 6-year-old daughter with them, or they have a 6-year-old daughter with them. So the husband had a disability, and he was on SSI. And he was absolutely like just a great dad overall, just to his daughter. Like you can just tell, like they just had this connection with each other, and then the mom and his daughter too, like they all just had this just deep connection with each other, right? So the father had this physical disability and was unable to work. So he was on this fixed income, and the mom would hold jobs and she would lose jobs. And she actually had uh, a gambling addiction. So she would sometimes go out and spend their rent money trying to gamble. And, so she would dig herself and her family into this hole, right? And she finally was able to get connected to our counselors, and really address that core issue. Um, so she was able to address that core issue. We were able to actually get them into a couple different apartments. They were first housed in one apartment, and not the greatest of neighborhoods, but they were able to actually end up saving money longer term, once she kind of started addressing um, that core issue. We were able to actually move them to another community, which they're actually like thriving right now. So I think about them a lot. And the girl actually got connected to the Girl Scouts through us. We have a partnership with the Girl Scouts. We're able to get some of our clients connected to them. So the mom actually sent us a picture the other day of the girl selling cookies, and definitely think about them a lot. So they were very, I would say, they were also very do what it takes kind of attitude. They didn't actually have a vehicle, but what mom ended up doing was buying a electric scooter, which is definitely not as expensive as a car. Less than $1,000. So she actually rides her scooter to get to appointments, go to work, and things like that. So definitely, they're doing what they need to do to survive, and definitely think about them a lot.
And how many boxes of Girl Scout cookies did you buy from that girl?
I think all of
1,000?
us bought it. Yeah, yeah, we definitely all buy boxes from all our clients. Yeah.
Nice. So I guess last question for you today. So with your kind of wealth of experience and the different roles that you've worked in kind of across Orange County. Can you summarize your thoughts on the homelessness issue in Orange County, and maybe just synthesize this conversation and give us a takeaway or two?
Yeah, I definitely think people don't realize how many families are homeless here in Orange County. They are definitely not seen to the same level that you see individuals on the streets. And I think people need to be more aware that there's a lot of children, there's a lot of students out there who are homeless, who are sleeping in motels, sleeping in their cars, and at the same time, they're expected to get good grades in school, right? Go to school every day, have a clean uniform, you know? So I definitely want people to realize that there's thousands of kids who are homeless on the streets every day. And that I think that's like the biggest takeaway. And definitely a lot of respect to these students and these kids who go to school and are able to face that at the same time, not having a home to go to at the end of the day, and then having to do that 5 days a week, you know, for weeks on end, months on end, sometimes even a year before their family's able to really stabilize. So I definitely think there should be more awareness on that aspect, because I think we all know homelessness is a major issue. We see it every day here in Southern California and other parts of this country. We see our homeless neighbors on the street corners, you know, at parks and things like that. But families do a better job at not having their children out in the public. You know, we're not going to know. If we see a family at the park, we're not going to think, oh, this family's homeless, right? You just don't know. We really don't know. So definitely want people to think about that.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Andrew. I really appreciate your time today.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
All right. Take care.
Take care.
Thank you for listening today to Listen Up, the Stand Up for Kids podcast. A big thank you to Gabby Villarreal and Billy Quinn for their production and editing support. Please like this video and subscribe to our channel. Click here to watch more. Please also consider a donation to help getting kids off the streets using the link below. 92 cents out of every dollar donated goes directly to supporting these kids. I'm your host, Michael Olson, Director of Development at Stand Up for Kids Orange County. Thanks for listening and have a great day.